So, Ghazi Kodzo is a YouTuber who's earned the nickname Black Hitler, and for good reason. Most of you have probably heard at this point about the four black teenagers who kidnapped and tortured a mentally ill white man for up to 48 hours and streamed it on Facebook Live. It's obviously a disgusting crime, and I don't need to talk about that, but I want to talk about Black Hitler's response.
So Jesse, have you heard some of my people kidnapped one of your people, put him in a tub and beat him up a little bit. You know, they scraped him up a little bit, tied him, went on live stream and stuff about it. Have you heard about it?
I did. I heard about it.
Crazy, right? But actually it's not so crazy since, your people built an entire capitalist, imperialist society on top of my people. You want to talk about kidnapping and torture. Can we talk about the almost 700 years of kidnapping and torture of African people?
Look at Jesse nod. His eyes are almost as dead as Sally's. Stop using horrific things from the past to justify horrific things of the present and to devalue people for their skin color. It doesn't make sense. No white person alive right now should feel guilty for their race just because of some things that people who happen to be of similar tint did in the past.
So if you want to talk about kidnapping and torture, then you need to talk about what built the United States of America, which was kidnapping and torturing.
No one denies slavery. Well, probably some people, but like not enough to be relevant. Everyone agrees that it was a bad thing. So what more do you want? Reparations? Actually, probably. Actually, yes.
That's what we're talking about, right, Jesse?
Yes.
Jesse, snap out of it.
And I don't really take mental illness or disabilities of white people very seriously because white people, they sneeze twice and all of a sudden they mentally ill and they got prescription drugs and shit and they on Jenny Craig.
That actually made me chuckle, but you're still a piece of shit. Look at Jesse's forced laughter.
Drugs and shit and they on Jenny Craig and Oprah and shit talking about what they've survived and shit. So I don't even believe that. And to anyone that wants to, put down these four African teenagers or talk shit about these four African teenagers, because I see a lot of black people talking shit about these four African teenagers saying, oh, why they're doing this, why they're doing that. These are not people that represent us and all this other kind of stuff. Sorry. What we should really be saying is, where are their leaders? They were assassinated by the U.S. government. Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King.
Yes, people should be shitting on these teenagers. They are deplorable. Please, make it clear that they don't represent you. And it's funny you should mention Martin Luther King Jr., because he called for peace. He was completely against violence. He wanted equality, and he would be ashamed of this act and others carried out under the name of racial equality.
But guess what I have to say about those four Africans that did that to that white man? I'd rather see a white man in that tub than an African woman. I'd rather see a white man in that tub than an African man.
Well, of course, Black Hitler.
You want to talk about torture. You want to talk about the white man in New York in the 90s who kidnapped African women, sex workers, put them in his basement, and he would kill one of them, blend them up, and feed them to each other. You want to talk about torture.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Crazy people commit sick crimes. No one is denying that. This one in particular got a lot of coverage. One, because it was live streamed on Facebook Live, and two, because of the responses of people like you, the people who are denying it as a hate crime or justifying their actions because slavery, or listing off the problems black people face today at the hands of white people and acting like this was a warranted response.
You want to talk about torture. So I'm sorry, but white people, until you overturn the contradiction of colonialism, you will never be seen as human. You will never be treated as human.
And here we have Black Hitler affirming that white people should not be treated as human. My God. White people are not one entity, and this crime affected an individual man who had done nothing to deserve it. There's no getting around that. Empathy should transcend racial boundaries.
What about those mentally ill white men in the military that raped an African woman who was also in the military, poured acid on her vagina, and stuffed her into a barrel? You want to talk about mentally illness.
You can name all the horrific crimes you want. No one will deny that they're inhumane, but it does not justify this one and never will. All of these victims are individuals and they're suffering, they're humans, and if you can't acknowledge that this man deserves empathy because he's white and some white people have done bad things to some black people, you are sick. And I feel like Ghazi Kodzo doesn't even care about these other crimes. He's just using them to make other people feel outraged, but he personally doesn't feel anything.
White people are not innocent in this.
Actually, I'm pretty sure this one was. So, Okay, so that was pretty heavy. Jesse, if you're being held hostage, like if this is some Marina Joyce shit, hit me up, babe.
We're fair targets when African people rise up and resist.
So I know my mic quality is shit, but I just saw this video and I decided I wanted to respond like right now. So thanks for watching. Uhuru. Sorry.